When it comes to the world of anime, it is not completely unusual to see multiple English dubs of the same show. This can happen for a number of reasons. The original license holder can no longer afford to dub a series, there has to be a dub made for a specific region, and many other possibilities to consider. Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are among the most popular anime worldwide, but what a lot of fans don't realize is the fact that there's not only one English dub, but several. Let's start from the beginning in the early 80s with a little company called Harmony Gold. They were a television company that bought up a multitude of Japanese shows, though they never really saw any huge success until they brought out a show called Robotech, which edited together 3 different shows into one cohesive storyline. So a few years later, Harmony Gold tried to make lightning strike twice by purchasing the license to Dragon Ball from Toei Animation. They had licensed 2 movies and about 60 episodes, but only aired 5 of them. The episodes only aired in certain test markets, but didn't receive enough response for Harmony Gold to continue producing the dub. The 2 movies, those being The Legend of Shenlong and Mystical Adventure, were combined together and aired as a special for local channel Saturday night movie blocks, simply titled Dragon Ball. The movie was relatively more successful than the series, but not by much. Aside from the market's response, the dub itself was quite bizarre. Every character had their name changed for some unknown reason. Son Goku became Zero, Bulma became Lena, Oolong became Mao Mao, Yamcha became Zadaki, and the Muten Roshi became Master Roshi. The dub was also edited, but to what extent is unknown, as aside from the movies and a clip from the first episode, this dub has been lost in time. Though it's not a bad dub for its time, it actually kept in Shunsuke Kikuchi's original soundtrack, and the opening used the original instrumental.
Guys working everywhere.
Get that Dragon Ball! Gotta have them all! Wise guys, they don't know it all!
For the next few years, the license of the Dragon Ball franchise had remained dormant as no one thought they could profit off of it given Harmony Gold's lackluster performance. That is until Gen Fukunaga founded Funimation Productions in 1994, with the license to Dragon Ball given to him by a family member who was a producer at Toei. In 1995, Funimation produced a dub of the first 13 episodes of Dragon Ball and the first movie. They outsourced the audio production to Ocean Studios in Vancouver, Canada, and used a replacement soundtrack composed by Peter Baring, along with a new theme song that reeks of mid-90s cheese. This attempt was relatively more successful than Harmony Gold, but still did not perform very well. It did manage to get 7 VHS releases licensed to Vidmark, making this the first time the anime became available on home video in North America. Like Harmony Gold's dub, there are quite a few edits in addition to many poorly done visual edits. However, the names stayed the same for the most part, with Master Roshi and the Flying Nimbus being the only names carried over from the Harmony Gold dub. This dubbing attempt failed most likely due to a combination of airing on bad time slots and the earlier parts of the anime focusing more on comedy than action. The low level of response to Dragon Ball prompted Funimation to just skip ahead and start production of an English dub of Dragon Ball Z in 1996. With audio production still done by Ocean Studios and a dub scored by Haim Saban and Shuki Levy, DBZ was a hit on syndicated television and put Funimation on the map. This didn't necessarily mean that the dub was perfect though. Just like their previous production, DBZ was given heavy censorship, including the infamous HFIL, and entire episodes being cut out from the dub. Though oddly enough, Funimation, in conjunction with Pioneer, who had licensed DBZ's home video release, produced dubs of the first 3 DBZ movies that were completely uncut and kept in the original Japanese soundtrack. The only thing that the dubs of the movies kept consistent with the TV dub were the voice actors themselves. Even stranger, Funny actually produced 2 dubs of movie 3, one made for home video and another for TV, which was split into episodes and had the same type of edits as the series and used the dubbed soundtrack. Despite having very successful TV ratings and being put on Cartoon Network's Toonami block in 1998, it was difficult for Funny to continue outsourcing production to Ocean Studios, so the series went on hiatus for quite a while, rerunning episodes from the Saiyan arc all the way up to Goku defeating Raccoon, and then starting all over again. Funny then began to start using their own in-house studio and hired local actors. The first production to come of this was a dub of the second Dragon Ball movie, Sleeping Princess and Devil's Castle, which was later released on VHS and was the first time since the Harmony Gold dub that Dragon Ball retained its original Japanese soundtrack. Then in 1999, Funimation started to produce their own in-house dub of DBZ from where their initial production had left off. This was a big deal as these episodes contained less visual editing and prompted Funimation to begin releasing uncut VHS tapes and DVDs. This new dub contained a new soundtrack produced by Bruce Faulkner, which became a staple among the American fanbase. Despite having less visual edits, the dub still had many bizarre changes in the script due to the script sent to them by Toei not being very well translated, causing scenes to just be rewritten entirely. In retrospect, some of these scenes are actually hilarious due to how nonsensical they can be.
Cat loves food, yeah.
Help me!
Up goes the weasel.
When they had just began dubbing the Majin Buu arc, they began to redub the original Dragon Ball anime, but unlike the DBZ dub, they kept all of the original music, sans a few insert songs, and even produced all new dubbed versions of the opening and closing songs. Due to its association with DBZ, the original DB anime became more successful than it had ever been before. Unfortunately, due to Vidmark having the license to the first 13 episodes, they were unable to release their new dub of the first 13 episodes on home video, and just had to start releasing it from the first Tenkaichi Budokai arc. The first 13 episodes did eventually get released in 2009 with the Blue Brick Dragon Ball season sets after Vidmark had lost their license. By 2003, Funny had finished dubbing the rest of DBZ, however they still had not gone back and redubbed the first 67 episodes that were done in the heavily edited Ocean Studios dub. So once Pioneer's home video rights to those episodes expired in 2005, they began to go back and redub those episodes under the moniker of the Ultimate Uncut Edition. Along with those episodes, they also went through and redubbed the first 3 movies with their in-house actors. Bruce Faulkner did not return to make music for this redub, so they got a new composer, Nathan Johnson, to compose the background music for these episodes. While all of the redubbed episodes aired on Toonami, the DVD releases stopped before the end of the Saiyan arc for unknown reasons. It wasn't until 2007 that Dragon Ball Z finally received a full consistent release from start to finish in Japanese and English with the Orange Break DVDs. These DVDs contained a new dub track that allowed you to watch the dub with the awesome original Japanese music. The new DVDs also contained some re-recorded lines to keep everything consistent.
The liquid in this capsule is synthetic Saiyan DNA, which will penetrate his every pore and make him as good as new.
Whoa, Mondo cool.
That's right, boys. Mondo cool.
The liquid in the capsule is synthetic Saiyan DNA, which will penetrate his every pore and make him good as new.
Whoa, Mondo cool.
That's right, boys. Mondo cool.
Now, as far as the history of English dubs made for the United States, that's about where everything ends. However, believe it or not, there are still more English dubs made for other countries. Enter the French company AB Group. They owned English broadcasting rights to the Dragon Ball franchise in Canada and the UK. They produced a dub of DBZ with Ocean's Westwood Studios, starting with the Cell arc, which was basically just Funny's dub, but with most of the Ocean actors reprising their roles, and background music being recycled from other Ocean productions. Just like Funimation, they produced a dub of Dragon Ball with Blue Water Studios, which was pretty similar to Funny's 2001 dub, but contained a slightly more accurate script. Unfortunately, the voice acting wasn't quite up to par.
This feels like underwear.
Oh no, it's, Turtle Hermit fighting armor.
It's soft.
Also not unlike funny, AB Group produced an in-house dub of the Dragon Ball movies and the first 9 Dragon Ball Z movies, and they're very bizarre.
Answer me. Who are you?
It's Big Green!
Let that child alone.
This dub has been referred to by fans as the Big Green dub due to Piccolo being nicknamed that. There are also some other bizarre name changes. Kuririn was changed to Clearin, Muten Roshi was changed to Turtle, and Bulma was renamed to Bluma. Unlike AB's other productions, these were actually released on VHS and DVD in PAL territories, but are very hard to find. It's a very bare-bones production that even leaves the opening and closings as instrumentals. They don't even credit anybody who actually worked on the dub. What's incredibly odd is that the DVD release for movie 1 actually takes the ending credit sequence from Funimation and Pioneer's English dub. Despite its low quality and obscure nature, the dub is actually quite good to watch for a laugh. Now, if you're thinking at this point that surely we're done, you'd be wrong, as there are even more Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z dubs out there. In 1993, a company called Creative Products Corporation acquired the Filipino license to Dragon Ball Z from Animation International in Hong Kong. At this time, the most popular cartoons in the Philippines were American cartoons being shown in their original English form. Because of this, Creative Products decided that instead of producing a Tagalog dub, they would dub it in English so that it would be more of a success. Their DBZ dub went through the Cyan arc, but then went through a hiatus, and soon a dub of the original Dragon Ball began airing and seemingly saw a huge success. Unfortunately, there isn't much to say about the dub, as all clips of it have been taken down, making it even rarer than the Harmony Gold dub. In 1996, Creative Products released a theatrical production called Dragon Ball Z: The Greatest Rivals, which combined the 5th and 6th DBZ movies. This is all that can be found of the dub, albeit in 2 very low-quality real media files. The Greatest Rivals received a very limited VHS release that's so hard to find that there aren't even any pictures of the cover online. Judging from the movies, this dub actually doesn't seem that bad, with the only name changes being Kuririn to Kririn and Muten Roshi to Master Buten. It also contained English dubbed versions of Chala Headshala and movie 6's ending song Kimi ga Hero. I'm actually fortunate enough to own the soundtrack CD they released alongside the movie, and not only does it contain the 2 tracks I just mentioned, but also dubbed versions of Mako Fushigi Adventure, Romantic Agerio, Zenkai Power, and even Hikari no Tabi from the Bardock TV special. It's most likely that these were used in the dubs that Creative Products produced, but as there are currently no recordings of it, we can't say for sure. Since I'm such a swell guy, I'll provide a link in the description where you can download all of the tracks ripped directly from the CD. There are 2 more known English dubs of the series, and the first of those is Animax Asia's English dub of Dragon Ball. If you can believe it, the only confirmation that this exists is a 1-second clip on one of the Animax voice actors' reels, and that's it. There's nothing I can say about this dub other than it existed at one point. The final dub known to exist is perhaps the most infamous, the Speedy Video Dub, known by fans as the Malaysian dub. The background behind this dub is completely unknown. Nobody knows who worked on it and why it exists. Speedy Video just started releasing this dub on VCD at some point in the late 90s. What should be noted is that Speedy Video released other Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z VCDs that actually contain Funimation's dub, which is one thing leading fans to question if these are bootlegged releases or legitimate. The other aspect is their dub of movie 9 not even being dubbed with the proper materials and using music from the DBZ PS1 games. This dub is by far not only the worst dub of anything Dragon Ball related, but I would go as far as to say it's the worst anime dub in history. These clips should speak for themselves.
Goku.
Yes, my lord.
Listen, a troublesome thing had happened.
Troublesome?
A troublesome tree that is called the Shinri tree was planted on the earth.
If I don't eat rice, the power won't come.
You are the threshold dynamic people. You are also still alive. This is a good time. I was thinking that after I beat this monkey, I was going to the earth, but it caused me a trouble.
We are the one who caused the trouble.
That's enough of that. I think I've lost enough brain cells. As you can tell, Dragon Ball has a very convoluted dubbing history, and for all I know, there could be more English dubs out there that people haven't made very well known. And I didn't even cover GT, Kai, or Super, but perhaps that can wait for another time. If you can somehow believe it, I didn't cover every single Dragon Ball English dub in my previous video. A huge part of that is the fact that I only focused on the original series and Z. However, when you move on to GT, Kai, Super, and even the video games to a tiny extent, there's still more to discuss. But let's dial it back to Dragon Ball Z for a moment, because there's one more dub to discuss that wasn't brought up last time. If you remember the last part, I discussed the Creative Products Corporation English dub that was made for the Philippines. Interestingly, there's another English Dragon Ball Z production in the Philippines that seems to have no connection with Creative Products, and that is the Solar Entertainment dub. As far as I know, Solar Entertainment only dubbed the 10th and 11th movies at some point in 1998, and combined them together to make a theatrical production simply called Dragon Ball Z the Movie. Later this was released on VHS by Solar Home Entertainment and on VCD by Warner Home Video Philippines. On a side note, Warner Home Video in the UK released 3 of the Big Green dub movies on VHS and DVD as well, which is an interesting coincidence. Compared to the Creative Products dub, Solar Entertainment's production seems much lower budget, and unlike the greatest rivals, the opening and ending songs are left in Japanese, and the visuals are left unaltered as well, meaning that there are no English credits, so we have no idea who actually worked on this dub. Also, we don't even know if this dub was officially licensed by Toei. If you look at the packaging on both the VHS and VCD release, you will not find even a mention of Toei, Shueisha, or Bird Studio. As far as name changes go, it seems to be about the same as the Creative Products dub, but instead of Kuririn being Kririn, he's now Cleland. What I find the most interesting is that Mr. Satan's name is left completely unchanged, as in the Tagalog dub he was renamed to Master Pogi, but that's about all I can say about that. I do hope more information on this dub will surface as time goes on, but for now that's all I have. So without further ado, let's step into the grand tour with Dragon Ball GT. As we all know, Funimation licensed the series and began to broadcast and release it on home video at the tail end of Dragon Ball Z's US run. GT's original US television run is infamous for the fact that Funimation chose to forego the first 16 episodes of the series and create a new episode called A Grand Problem, with the intent of quickly summarizing events of the story up to episode 17 using clips from previous episodes. It's commonly thought that this was done in order to get to the action quickly so that they wouldn't lose the enormous audience that Dragon Ball Z had gained. While I can't find any official confirmation on that, I do think that's most likely the case. Funimation did eventually release these episodes under the title of The Lost Episodes. As was the case with DBZ, Funimation opted to add in a replacement score for their dub that was composed by Mark Menza, and the opening and ending were replaced by the infamous Step Into the Grand Tour rap.
Step into the grand tour of Dragon Ball GT!
In 2008, Funimation began to release season sets for GT, which contain a new audio track featuring new dubbed versions of the original opening and ending songs, as well as leaving the original background music intact. As far as the quality of the dub itself, well, it's about the same as one would expect from Funimation at the time, and I already discussed that at great length in the last video, so I won't repeat myself here. As was the case with the original Dragon Ball series, GT also had an alternate English dub produced by IDB group and recorded at Blue Water Studios for broadcast in Canada and the UK. Unlike the Blue Water Dragon Ball dub, the GT dub actually uses the original opening's instrumental, but the vocals don't quite match the original melody, similarly to Harmony Gold's opening. Before moving on from GT, I want to mention a particular video game. Dragon Ball GT Final Bout was pretty noteworthy in the United States, as it was essentially the first properly localized and released Dragon Ball game we got. However, the localization is a little strange. The game was released while Funimation's original Ocean Run was still being broadcast, but despite this, the game uses a completely different voice cast based out of California. I simply cannot find an official reason as to why this is the case, but if I had to guess, I would say that hiring these actors was likely vastly cheaper for Bandai than to have the Ocean Studios actors reprise their roles. What's especially weird about the dubbing in this game, however, is that it technically isn't complete, as all of the battle grunts and screams during gameplay are left unaltered from the original Japanese version. In 2004, the game was reprinted by Atari to coincide with the series finally airing in the US. However, other than the cover art being changed, the game itself and its dubbing was left completely unaltered. So with GT out of the way, let's move on to Dragon Ball Z Kai, which has more to its dubbing history than one might think. In 2010, Funimation began to release their dub of Kai on home video and broadcast the series on Nicktoons and the CW's Toonzai block on Saturday mornings. The home video releases were completely unedited, and the work done here was unanimously praised by the fanbase as Funimation changed their approach to dubbing anime over the years and wanted to make a more accurate adaptation of the Dragon Ball story with their dub of Kai. Most of the original voice cast retained their roles, with the only notable exceptions being Gohan and Frieza, who are now voiced by Colleen Clinkenbeard and Chris Ayers respectively. Though the first episode does have a brief moment where Linda Young's voice can be heard laughing as Frieza. The Nicktoons broadcast was a little different though, as obviously some things would have to be edited to be shown on children's television. Aside from visual edits, there were also some dialogue changes made for the Nicktoons broadcast, including the famous over 9,000 scene, which on the home video release is over 8,000.
Vegeta! What does the scouter say about his power level? It's over 8,000! 8,000?! Come on, that can't be right! It must be broken or something!
Vegeta! Vegeta! What's wrong with you? Tell me what his power level is!
It's over 9,000!
What? 9,000? You've got to be kidding me! That thing's a piece of junk!
In my personal opinion, I'd have to say that the edits done on the Nicktoons version are nowhere near as bad as the ones that were done in the Ocean dub run, and are more akin to the edited dub that Funimation started releasing once they dubbed Dragon Ball Z in-house. Speaking of Ocean, they were actually the ones responsible for the video editing of the Nicktoons broadcast, but we'll come back to that in a bit. We also have the Toonzai version to talk about as well, which is also different because it's just never that simple with Dragon Ball. For those of you who aren't aware, Toonzai was a Saturday morning cartoon block that aired on the CW, and was a rebranding of the infamous 4Kids block. Despite the Nicktoons version existing, 4Kids still felt the need to create their own edited version that met their own standards, which included more severe visual edits and dialogue changes that tried as hard as possible to dance around the subject of death. While Funimation would have the original actors record alternate lines for the Nicktoons broadcast, 4Kids didn't have that luxury, and most of the time alternate dialogue would have to be recorded by Sean Schemmel, who conveniently enough was living in New York at the time.
Why'd you have to go and get yourself killed, you stupid jerk? What am I supposed to tell poor and Bulma, huh? What in the hell was that Cyberman thinking? I don't want to see a draw! I want to see her win! Come on, let's go to the next round!
Calm down, Nappa. Now let's give him a moment to clear this trash off the battlefield.
Why'd you have to go and play the hero, you big jerk? What am I supposed to tell poor and Bulma, huh? What was that idiot Cyberman thinking? I don't want to see a draw! I want to see her win! Come on, let's go to the next round!
Calm down, Nappa. Now let's give him a moment to get his friend off the battlefield.
Dragon Ball Z Kai was often misconstrued as just being a censored version of Dragon Ball Z, and while Kai does inherently tone down some scenes, it's the Nicktoons and 4Kids broadcast that people confuse for the actual product. Fortunately, with the series now being broadcast on Adult Swim in its unedited form, most of this confusion is starting to be cleared up. Now back on the subject of Ocean Studios, they actually did their own dub of Dragon Ball Z Kai. However, despite the whole series being dubbed, it still, to this day, has never been released in any sort of format. The only way we know that this dub even exists is thanks to interviews with voice actors who worked on it, and the opening song which was leaked onto the internet.
Fight with power, fight with spirit, fight on Dragon Ball Z. Through the fire, through the battle, we will never give in. Never give in. Fight on through till the battle ends.
It's likely that the edits Ocean did for the Nicktoons broadcast were going to be carried over for their own dub, but without having a way to watch it for ourselves, there's no way to tell. There are many dedicated fans who are trying to push for the release of this dub, and Toei themselves have confirmed to have the dub in their possession, and whether they end up licensing it out to a TV station in Canada remains to be seen, but hopefully we'll finally be able to see this dub come to light. That's about it for Kai, though I guess I should briefly mention the final chapters. As far as we know for now, Funimation is the only company that has dubbed the final chapters, and there are no differences between the version that was broadcast on Adult Swim and the version available on home video, but there was one minor controversy attached to the dub. In the scene where the gang are watching the reenactment movie of Mr. Satan defeating Cell, Funimation had originally intended to have the cast of Team 4 Star's Dragon Ball Z Abridged parody dub over the scene. However, all of their voiceover work was removed last minute when the episode finally aired, and was replaced with the voices from the scene in the original dub of Dragon Ball Z. This scene was however left intact for a little while on some on-demand services, but I believe that version was eventually taken off. Other than that, that's all there is to say about the dubbing of final chapters. It's kinda weird to think that it's the only Dragon Ball series as of this video that only has one English dub. We have one final series to talk about now with the recently concluded Dragon Ball Super. Despite how popular the series was, it took almost 2 years for Funimation to license the series and begin releasing it officially. This dub is noteworthy for a few reasons. For starters, the first opening song, Chosetsu Dynamic, is left in Japanese, making this the first time that Funimation didn't have an English opening for their dub of a Dragon Ball series. However, all of the ending songs and the second opening have been dubbed. Also, since the show is being broadcast on Adult Swim, there is no need for it to be edited for broadcast. Despite this though, Chris Sabat has gone on record saying they do have an alternate edited dub for other markets, but as of this video, that dub hasn't been broadcast anywhere. As it's come to be tradition by this point, there has to be at least one alternate dub, and sure enough, that's the case with Dragon Ball Super. Right around the same time Funimation began airing their dub stateside, Toonami Asia received their own dub of Dragon Ball Super, which despite being made for Southeast Asia, was actually produced here in the United States by Bang Zoom Entertainment. This dub is mostly interesting because of its voice cast. There are a few actors here that are from the Harmony Gold days, including Wendy Lee, who finally got to reprise her role as Bulma almost 30 years later. Lex Lang is the voice of Goku, but previously he was part of the dub cast for Final Bout where he voiced Gohan. It's likely that this casting is all a mere coincidence, but it's still cool to think about. The script for the dub is a little weird. Mr. Satan is called Hercule like in the old edited funny dub, but some names are left unaltered. This dub was ordered for at least 52 episodes, but seeing how Toonami Asia shut down earlier this year after only 27 episodes were aired, it's most likely that this dub has been cancelled. Unfortunately, the only way to see this dub is to watch fan-recorded clips, as it will almost certainly never be released on home video, and likely will not be broadcast again, with the edited Funimation dub probably taking precedence in those territories, if anything. So with all of that said, that concludes our look at the convoluted dubbing history of the Dragon Ball franchise. Be sure to let me know in the comments what your favorite Dragon Ball dub is, and why. I always enjoy reading other people's opinions on dubs, and I thank you all for watching the video.